I don't know how many times I got disturbed today. Anyways, starting. I won't say anything negative about my own family though. That doesn't mean I won't defend them if somebody else does. And as if today, as of today, my gossiping is a thing of the past. Up till now, I was absolutely convinced that the Van Dants were entirely to blame for quarrels, but now I'm sure the fault was largely ours. We were right as far as the issues were concerned, but intelligent people such as ourselves should have been more insight into how to deal with others. Oh, that's true. But intelligent people such as ourselves should have more insight into how to deal with others. I hope I've got at least a touch of that insight and that I'll find an occasion to put it to good use. Monday, January 24, 1944. A very strange thing has happened to me actually. Happened isn't quite the right word. Before I came here, whenever anyone at home or at school talked about sex, they were either secretive or disgusting. Any words having to do with sex were spoken in a low whisper, and those who weren't in the know were often laughed at. That struck me as odd, and I often wondered why people were so mysterious or obnoxious when they talked about the subject. But because I couldn't change things, I said as little as possible or asked my girlfriends for information. After I learned quite a lot, mother once said to me, Anne, let me give you some good advice. Never discuss this with boys, and if they bring it up, don't answer them. I still remember my exact reply. No, of course not, I exclaimed. Imagine. And nothing more was said. When we first went into hiding, father often told me about things I'd rather have heard from mother, and I learned the rest from books or things I picked up in conversations. Peter Van Damme wasn't ever as obnoxious about this subject as the boys at school. Or maybe just once or twice in the beginning, though he wasn't trying to get to talk to Or maybe just once or twice in the beginning, though he wasn't trying to get me to talk. Mrs. Van Daan once told us she'd never discussed these matters with Peter. And as far as she knew, neither had her husband. Apparently, she didn't even know how much Peter knew or where he got his information. Yesterday, when Margaret, Peter, and I were peeling potatoes, the conversation somehow turned to Bocce. We're not sure whether Bocce is a boy or a girl, are we? I asked. Yes, we are, he answered. Bocce is a tomcat. I began to laugh. Some tomcat if he's pregnant. I began to laugh. Some tomcat if he's pregnant. Peter and Margaret joined in the laughter. You see, a month or two ago, Peter informed us that Bocce was sure to have kittens before long, because her stomach was rapidly swelling. However, Bocce's fat tummy turned out to be due to a bunch of stolen bones. No kittens were growing inside, much less about to be born. Peter felt called upon to defend himself against my accusation. Come with me. You can see for myself. I was horsing around with that cat one day, and I could definitely see it was a he. Unable to restrain my curiosity, I went to him to the warehouse. Bocce, however, isn't receiving visitors at that hour and was nowhere. Bocce, however, wasn't receiving visitors at that hour and was nowhere in sight. We waited for a while, but when it got cold, we went back upstairs. Later that afternoon, I heard Peter go downstairs for the second time. I mustered the courage to walk through the silent house by myself and reach the warehouse. But she was on the packing table playing with Peter, who was getting ready to put him on the scale and weigh him. Hello, do you want to have a look? Without my preliminaries, he picked up the cat, turned him over on his back, deftly held his head and paws, and began the lesson. This is the male section organ. There are a few stray hairs, and that's his backside. The cat flipped himself over and stood up on his little feet, white feet. If any other boy had pointed out the male sexual male sexual organ to me, I would never have given him a second glance. But Peter went on talking in a normal voice about what is otherwise a very awkward subject. But Peter went on talking in a normal voice about what is otherwise a very awkward subject. Not, nor, nor, nor did he have any ulterior motives. By the time he'd finished, I felt so much at ease that I started acting normally too. We played with Bocce, had a good time, chatted a bit, and finally sauntered through the long warehouse to the door. Were you there when Mushi was fixed? Yeah, sure. It doesn't take long, naturally, to give the cat an anesthetic. Did they take something out? No, the vet just nips the tube. There's nothing to see on the outside. I had to get up my nerve to ask a question since it wasn't as normal as I thought, Peter. The German word Geschlechts wait. Geschlechtsteil means sexual organ, doesn't it? But then the male and female ones have different names. I know that the female organ is a vagina. That I know, but I don't know what it's called in males. Oh well, I said. How are we supposed to know these words? Most of the time you just come across them by accident. Why? Wait, I'll ask my parents. They know more than I do, and they've had more experience. We were already on the stairs, so nothing more was said. Yes, it really did happen. I'd never have talked to a girl about this in a normal tone of voice. I'm also certainly that this isn't what Mother meant when she warned me about boys. All the same, I wasn't exactly my usual self for the rest of the day. When I thought back to our talk, it struck me as odd, but I've learned at least one thing. There are young people, even those of the opposite sex, who discuss these things naturally without cracking jokes. Is Peter really going to ask his parents a lot of questions? Is he really the way he seemed yesterday? Oh, what do I know? January 28, 1944. In recent weeks, I've developed a great liking for family trees and the genealogical tables of royal families. I've come to the conclusion that once you begin your search, you have to keep digging deeper and deeper into the past, which leads you to even more interesting discoveries. Although I'm extremely diligent there it comes to my hard work. Although I'm extremely diligent when it comes to my hard work and can pretty much follow the BBC Home Services on the radio, I still spend many of my Sundays sorting out and looking over my film star collection, which has grown to be very respectable size. Mr. Cooper makes me happy every morning by bringing me a copy of Cinema and Theatre magazine. The less worldly members of our household often refer to this small indulgence as a waste of money, yet they never fail to be surprised at how accurately I can list the actors in any given film. Even after a year, Beb, who often gets to the cinema with her boyfriend on her day off, tells me on Saturday the name of the show they're going to see, and I proceed to rattle off the names of the leading actors and actresses and the reviews. Mums recently remarked that I wouldn't need to go to cinema later on because I know of all plots, the names of the stars, and the reviews by heart. Whenever I come sailing in with a new hairstyle, I can read the disapproval of their faces, and I can be sure someone will ask which film star I'm trying to imitate. My reply, that it's my own invention, is greeted with skepticism. As for the hairdo, it doesn't hold its set for more than half an hour. By the time I'm so sick and tired of the remarks that I race to bathroom and restore my hair to its normal mass of curls. Yours, Anne. Friday, January 28, 1944. Dearest Kitty, this morning I was wondering whether you ever felt like a cow, having to chew up stale news over and over again until you're so fed with the monotonous fare that you yawn and secretly wish Anne would take up something new. Sorry, I know you find it dull as ditch water, but imagine how sick and tired I am of hearing the same old stuff. If the talk at mealtime isn't about politics of good food, then Mother or Mrs. Vandy trot out stories about their childhood that we've heard 1,000 times before. Our Dessel goes on and on about beautiful racehorses, Charlotte's extensive wardrobe, leaky rowboats, boys who can swim at the age of 4, aching muscles and frightening patience. It all boils down to this: whenever one of the 8 of us opens his mouth, the other 7 can finish the story for him. We know the punchline of every joke before it gets told, so that whoever's telling it is left to laugh alone. The various milkmen, grocers, and butchers of the 2 former housewives have been praised to the skies or run in the praised to the skis or run into the ground so many times that in our imagination they've grown as old as Methuselah. There's absolutely what's that? Methuselah or Methuselah? I don't know. Methuselah. There's absolutely no chance of anything new or fresh being brought up for discussion in the annex. Still, all things might be bearable if only the grown-ups weren't in habit of repeating the stories we hear from Mr. Kleiman, Jan, or Mia, each time embellishing them with a few details of their own, so that I often have to pinch my arm under the table to keep myself from setting the enthusiastic storyteller on the right track. Little children, such as Anne, must never ever correct their elders, no matter how many blunders they make, or how often they let their imaginations run away with them. Jan and Mr. Kleiman love talking about people who have gone underground or into hiding. They know we're eager to hear about others in our situation, and that we truly sympathize with the sorrow of those who've been arrested as well as the joy of prisoners who've been freed. Going underground or into hiding has become as routine as the proverbial pipe and slippers that used to await the man of the house for a long day at work. There are many resistance groups such as Free Netherlands, the forged identity cards provide financial support to those in hiding, organize hiding places, and find work for young Christians who go underground. It's amazing how much these generous and unselfish people do, risking their own lives to help and save others. The best example of this is our own helpers who have managed to pull us through so far and will hopefully bring us safely to shore, because otherwise they'll find themselves sharing the fate of those they're trying to protect. Never have they uttered a single word about the burden we must have. Never have they complained that we're too much trouble. They come upstairs every day and talk to the men about business and politics, to the women about food and wartime difficulties, and to the children about books and newspapers. They put on their most cheerful expressions, bring flowers and gifts for birthdays and special occasions, and are always ready to do what they can. That's something we should never forget. While others display their heroism in battles and or against the Germans, our helpers prove their everyday by the good spirits and affections. The most bizarre stories are making the round, yet most of them are true. For instance, Mr. Kleiman reported this week that a soccer match was held in the province of Gelderland. One team consisted entirely of men who had gone underground, and the other of 11 military policemen. In Hilversum, new registration cards were issued. In order for the many people in hiding to get their rations, you have to show this card to obtain your ration book, or else pay 60 guilders a book. The registrar asked all those hiding in the district to pick up their cards at a specific hour when the documents could be collected at a separate table. All the same, you have to be careful that stunts like these don't reach the ears of Germans. Yours, Anne. Sunday, January 30, 1944. Dearest Kitty, my dearest kid. Another Sunday has rolled around. I don't mind them as much as I did in the beginning, but they're boring enough. I still haven't gone to the warehouse yet, but maybe sometime soon. Last night I went downstairs in the dark all by myself, after having been there with Father a few nights before. I stood at the top of the stairs while German planes flew back and forth, and I knew I was on my own and I couldn't count on others for support. My fear vanished. I looked up at the sky and trusted in God. I have an intense need to be alone. Father has noticed I'm not my own usual self, but I can tell him what's bothering me. All I want to do is scream, let me be, leave me alone. Who knows, perhaps the day will come when I'm left alone more than I'd like. Anne Frank, Thursday, February 3, 1944. Dearest Kitty, invasion fever is mounting daily throughout the country. If you were here, I'm sure you'd be as impressed as I am at the many preparations, though you'd no doubt laugh at all the fuss we're making. Who knows? It may be all for nothing. The papers are full of invasion news and are driving everyone insane with such statements as, in the event of a British landing in Holland, the Germans will do what they can do to defend the country, even flooding it if necessary. They've published maps of Holland with the potential flood areas marked, since large portion of Amsterdam has receded. In our first question was that what we should do if the water in the streets rose to above our waist. This tricky question elicited a variety of responses. It will be impossible to walk or ride a bike, or we'll have to wade through the water. Don't be silly. We'll have to try and swim. We'll all put on our bathing suits and caps and swim underwater as much as we can so nobody can see we're Jews. Rubbish! I can't just imagine the ladies swimming with the rats biting their legs. That was a man, of course. We'll see who screams loudest. We won't even be able to leave the house. We won't be able to leave the house. The warehouse is so unstable it will collapse if there's a flood. Listen, everyone, all joking aside, we really ought to try and get the boat. Why bother? I have a better idea. We can each take a packing crate from the attic and row with a wooden spoon. I'm going to walk on stilts. I used to be a wizard at it when I was young. I used to be a wizard at it when I was young. Jan Gies won't need to. He'll let his wife ride piggy bank, and then Miep will be on stilts. So now you have a rough idea of what's going on, don't you, kid? This light-hearted banter is all very amusing, but reality will prove otherwise. The second question about the invasion was about to arise. What should we do if the Germans evacuate Amsterdam? Leave the city along with the others, disguise ourselves as well as we can. Whatever happens, don't go outside. The best thing to do is to stay put. The Germans are capable of herding the entire population of Holland into Germany, where they'll all die. Of course, we'll stay here. This is the safest place. We'll try to talk Kleiman and family and his family into coming here to live with us. We'll somehow get hold of a bag of wood shaving so we can sleep on the floor. Let's ask me up and Clement to bring some blankets just in case, and we'll order some extra grains to supplement the 65 pounds we already have. Jan can try to find some more beans. At this moment, we've got some 65 pounds of beans and 10 pounds of split peas. And don't forget the 50 cans of vegetables. What about the rest, mother? Give us the latest figures. 10 cans of fish, 40 cans of milk, 20 pounds of powdered milk, 3 bottles of oil, 4 pots of butter, 4 jars of meat, 2 big jars of strawberries, 2 jars of raspberries, 20 jars of tomatoes, 10 pounds of oatmeal, 9 pounds of rice. That's it. Our provisions are holding out fairly well. At the same time, we have to feed the office staff, which means dipping into our reserves every week. So it's not as much as it seems. We have enough coal and firewood candles too. Let's all make little money bags to hide in our clothes so we can take our money with us if we need to leave here. We can make lists of what to take first in case we have to run for it and pack our rucksacks in advance. When the time comes, we'll put 2 people on lookout, one in the loft at the front of the house and one in the back. Hang on, what's the use of so much food if there's only any water? There isn't any water or gas or electricity. We'll have to cook on the stove, filter the water and boil it. We should clean some big jugs and fill them with water. We can also store water in the 3 pans we use for preserving and in the tin bath. Besides, we still have about 230 pounds of winter potatoes in the spice storeroom. All day long, that's all I hear. Invasion, invasion, nothing but invasion. Arguments about going hungry, dying, bombs, fire extinguishers, sleeping bags, identity cards, poison gas, etc., etc. Not exactly cheerful. A good example of the explicit warning of the male contingent is the following conversation with Jan. Annex, we're afraid that when the Germans retreat, they'll take the entire population with them. Jan, that's impossible. They'd have to got enough trains. Annex, trains? Do you really think they'd put civilians on trains? Absolutely not. Everyone would have to hoof it. Or as Dessel always says, per pedis apostolorum. Jan, I can't believe that. You're always looking on the dark side. What's reason would they have to round up all the civilians and take them along? And next, don't you remember Goebbels saying that if the Germans have to go, they'll slam the doors to all the occupied territories behind them? Jam, they've said a lot of things. And next, do you think the Germans are too noble or humane to do it? The reasoning is if we go under, we'll drag everyone else down with us. Jan, you can say what you like. I just don't believe it. And next, it's always the old same story. No one wants to see the danger until it's staring them in the face. Jan, but don't you don't know anything for sure. You're just making an assumption. And next, because but we're already but we've already been through it all ourselves. First in Germany and then here. What do you think is happening in Russia? Jan, you shouldn't include the Jews. I don't think anyone knows what's going on in Russia. The British and the Russians are probably exaggerating for propaganda purpose, just like the Germans. And next, absolutely not. The BBC has always told the truth, and even if the news is slightly exaggerated, the facts are bad enough as they are. You can't deny that millions of peace-loving citizens in Poland and Russia have been murdered or gassed. I'll spare you the rest of the conversations. I'm very calm and take no notice of all the fuss. I've reached the point where I can hardly care whether I live or die. The world will keep on turning without me, and I can't do anything to change events anyway. I'll just let matters take their course and concentrate on studying and hope that everything will be all right in the end. Yours, Anne.